Hello, y'all. It's Dr. Brandy Nikhil, the Bookish Baddie, and I'm back with another bookish video. So, let's talk about books that sit with us, that sit heavy on our chest. Let's talk about that. What's a book that you've read? You could tell me in the comments. What's a book that you've read that has like never left you? Like it just keeps on holding on. For me, it's Monday's Not Coming. Monday's Not Coming by Tiffany D. Jackson. So first of all, let me just say this. I am a true crime girly. And so as I'm reading the book, I'm like, this sounded kind of familiar. And when I got to the end, I especially was like, wait a minute. Hold on. Hold on. And so this is based on a true crime case in Detroit, which is, I've watched hours and hours of true crime. And it is a true crime case that has sat with me in the same way that the book did. And this is loosely based. I don't think that, it's not a direct correlation, but loosely based on that case. And that case, when I seen that episode, I think it's on Evil Lives Here, I was flabbergasted. I was in tears. I was just blown away by how horrific it was. And so when I read the book and I realized that it was connected to that, I said, oh yeah. I've read a lot of Tiffany D. Jackson at this point, and I would say this and The Scammer are her best in my opinion. But this is by far one of the heaviest books, one of the saddest books, but one of the most eye-opening books I've ever read. So let's get into it. Now, there might be some light spoilers in this video. However, I'm still going to recommend that you read this book. I don't care if you know the ending. I don't care if you read the last page. I don't care if you know exactly what true crime case I'm talking about. You need to read this book. Okay? All right. So let me get my notes. Be right back. Okay, let's start with the overview. So this book is about the main character, Claudia, and she comes back from summer vacation and she hasn't heard from her friend. She usually hears from her bestie. Her bestie's name is Monday. She normally hears from bestie, on a regular basis while she's on her trip. And she's like, I have not heard from Monday. We got to catch up. And so she gets home. She like, okay, Mom, I'm home. Can I call Monday? Can I go see Monday? And Monday's nowhere to be found. And so Claudia's like, well, that's weird. Like, did I do something? Like, why I ain't heard from her? And so she like, I guess I have to wait till the first day of school. So she get there first day of school. She like, okay, I can't wait to see my girl Monday. We got to catch up. She at school, no Monday. She like, where is my girl? What's going on? Because, when you're a teenager, your bestie, that's your rock. You know what I'm saying? Even in adult life, but especially as a teenager, like your friends feel like your lifeline. And so she's looking for her best friend. And they are kind of, I'm not going to say outcast per se in school, but they are on the outer edges of, the popular kids, etc. Like they're not the most popular of kids. And so they really lean on each other heavily. So she's looking for Monday. Where is my girl? And so the book follows her on this path of looking for her best friend. And one of the things, and I got my notes down here, so if you see me looking down, it's because I'm looking at my notes. One of the things that broke my heart most is that she spends the entirety of this book looking for her friend and nobody cares. She's talking to her parents. She's talking to the teachers. She's talking to social services. She's going to Monday's house. She's talking to Monday's siblings. Like she's doing everything within her power as a teenage girl because you have limited access, limited resources, but she's doing the best that she can to be like, hey, where is my friend? And she's getting a runaround, and everybody's just kind of like, maybe she just don't want to be friends with you no more. Maybe she just moved on with her life, and oh, she's living with her dad. Oh, she went here, she went there. And as her best friend, she's like, no, this is not realistic. She would not do this. Because again, when you and your bestie know each other, you know she would not do this. This ain't her. Something's up. Something's afoot, right? And so the fact that everyone failed her broke my heart in a way that's hard for me to explain, because I feel like that's so indicative of the Black girl experience. You know, like, what matters to you does not matter to anyone else. What's important to you is not important to anyone else. You know, Black girls are often overlooked. We see all the time, you know, Black girls going missing or horrific things happening to Black girls, and the care is minimal. And so that it struck a chord with me of like, man, we have to find a way to show up better for our Black girls, you know. And it's making me think, like, even as a childless woman, like, how do I donate my energy towards making sure that our Black girls are cared for, outside of what I can do on a day-to-day, you know, with the Black girls in my community, or, you know, my neighbors and things like that. Like, outside of that, how can I contribute to making sure that Black girls are seen, are heard, are cared about, are missed, are followed up on? Like, why are we not checking on these girls? So that was the first thing that simply blew me away and broke my heart. And I am a Series of Unfortunate Events major fan, super fan, been since I was a kid. And one thing that's a consistent theme in those books is that the adults are useless, you know. So it's about 3 orphan children, siblings, who get bounced home to home, and terrible things happen to them because there is a man who's trying to, like, chase them to swindle them out of their fortune that their parents left them. And the whole book, like, all of the adults are just useless. Like, even the ones with good intentions, even the ones with resources, even the ones who think they're helping, like, they're just useless, you know. And this gave me that same sense of helplessness and despair. It just really broke my heart to see that. So I think that that's important. And an important message that has to be taken from this book is, like, listen to our girls, pay attention to our girls. And this is not to say don't do it for our boys. You know, I think, you know, Black boys face a unique challenge all their own. But right now I'm talking about the Black girls, and the way that we are pushed aside often. Just, it cannot continue. So I'll start there. Also, I think one of the great things that Tiffany D. Jackson did was jumping timelines in this book. So she went back and forth to, like, you know, before Monday went missing to after she went missing to present day, you know. So it's like very non-linear in a way that keeps you unbalanced and keeps you, like, confused and kind of stressed out and anxious. And it gives you the feeling of what's actually happening in the book. You know what I'm saying? Like, I say this all the time, like, I do not think a book has to be likable for me to rate it well. And when I say likable, I mean, I don't have to love the characters. I don't have to love the ending. If I felt something, then that was a good book to me. And this book made me feel stressed. It made me feel anxious. It made me feel sad. It did not make me happy. And that's what made it a good book. Because I'd even dare to say it's easier to pull out happiness in a person reading a book than it is to pull out sadness and despair and stress and anxiety. And it gave me those things. And it also made Claudia unreliable narrator. So the whole time you're reading the book, you're like, is she tripping? Is she making this up? Maybe the people are right. Maybe Monday just don't want nothing to do with her. Like, you know what I'm saying? It makes you question her, because everybody is so determined to push her to the side. Like, girl, we got other things to be worried about. Why are you worried about this? You know, like, unreliable narrator will always be a favorite in a book for me. Like, I feel like it really pushes the bounds of how we think and how we, you know, operate in humanity. So I think that's really important. I'll also say the adultification of Black girls in this book was so apparent when they do the time jumping to before Monday went missing, and you hear about her life and the things she was responsible for and the way she was treated and the way that people were just kind of like, oh, okay, well, just get over it. And the way they treat Claudia as she's looking for her, best friend. And it's just like, okay, well, you just need to get over it. You just need to move on. Black girls are often adultified in a way that robs them of their childhood. It robs them of the opportunity to be carefree and to have, just a childhood in general, through their teen years and even before that. And that was heartbreaking to read. Like, even Monday's family and Monday's, the teachers and everybody is just kind of like, well, she just went on to do her own thing. Like, whatever. What are we supposed to do? We just can't be worried about it. And it's like, what do you mean? This is a child who's missing. I'm saying that, hey, I'm her best friend. She's missing. Something is wrong. Something is wrong here. She is missing and nobody can account for where she actually is. And nobody cared enough to step in. And so I know that goes back to my original point of nobody caring, but also that feeds into this idea that, well, she's an adult. Like, that's how you treat a missing adult. You shouldn't, but that is how people treat missing adults. Like, oh, well, she has the right to go off and not speak to anybody. She has the right to do that. No, this is a child we're talking about. Where's the Amber Alert? Where is the manhunt? Where is the search party? Why do we not care enough? Why are we treating her like an adult? So that was very, very disturbing, to say the least. And also, it really highlighted, and I talked about this a little bit at the beginning of the video, but how as teenagers, and I'd say just as Black girls and Black women in general, our friends really become our family. And I'm only speaking for us because that's the only experience I've had. But Claudia didn't just lose her little friend from school like everybody treated it. She lost her person. She could not find her closest ally. This was her sister. Like, this was her person, like, and reflecting back on my friendships from when I was a teenager all the way up until now, many of those friendships have endured. And those that did not, I grieved, because that was not just my friend. Like, that was family to me, like, once I've really considered you a friend, then you become a family member to me. I hold that near and dear. And so for her to lose that really hit home. And she's an only child, so this really is her sister. And I grew up the only child in my household. And so similarly, my friends become my, surrogate sisters, like my homegirls are my sisters because I did not have that growing up. And so I could relate to Claudia in feeling like, I'm not just losing a friend here. It's not just my friend's missing. My friend don't want to talk to me anymore. Like, no, I'm missing my person, So it was devastating in that. And the ending, I'm not going to completely spoil the ending here, but there is a twist at the end that is so shocking and devastating and unthinkable that when I closed the book, I was like, did I really just read what I think I just read? And it makes you question humanity. It makes you also question, like, what's happening behind closed doors that we don't know about. It makes you wonder, how we're showing up for the people in our community and listening to them and hearing what they're not saying. I think in Black culture, we're often taught like what goes on in our house stays in our house, and you know, to a degree, sure, but also like in what ways is that harming us? In what ways is that keeping us from speaking up about things that are going wrong? You know what I mean? So it certainly left me with that to think about. And the last thing that I'll say, once I can remember it. Oh, I found it. Okay. And the last thing that I'll say is that I really appreciated that they did not make Monday's character flat. They did not make her just the super likable, bubbly, cute girl. You know, like she got angry sometimes. She would snap at Claudia sometimes. She, you know, made poor decisions sometimes. She, at one point, you know, burned all her hair out trying to do some hair color. You know what I'm saying? Like she was a multi-dimensional real character. She was not a perfect girl, but that did not mean that she was not worth saving. So, ladies and gents, if you have not read Monday's Not Coming, I'm going to suggest that you get this in your hands asaptually. Monday's Not Coming by Tiffany D. Jackson. Tell me in the comments if you've read it, what you thought, if you had any additional thoughts. And also tell me if you have a book that has sat with you that you've read. And let me see if I've read it or if I want to add it to my TBR. Okay? All right. Until next time, guys. Bye.